See if I can close some of these things here. All right. Oh, downtown. It's time for Bitcoin Filter. It's June 2015, and this is Bitcoin Filter number 51. Only one more episode before we have a whole year. Yeah, lots of excitement around here. Lots of stuff going on. We got a great show for you. We're gonna go through a little bit of local news. We have actually some big developments here locally. I'm kind of excited about it, as you can tell, and I'll tell you about those things. Also exciting is the price. We've been bored with the price for months and months now, and finally things are moving. That's got me a little bit excited too. Like we've been doing lately, we're going to take a trip around the world. We're going to go to Cyprus and Greece and Russia and Puerto Rico. Oh yeah, got a trip around the world planned for tonight. And if we have time, we're going to take a look at the block size debate again. This is coming to a head, and especially with all of the problems in Greece driving activity towards Bitcoin, we need to keep our finger on the pulse of this block size debate. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And if we have time, Stephen posted something about universal basic income, which is something that I'm really interested from a philosophical standpoint. I don't know if we'll get there or not. Maybe we can save that for another one, but I've got it on the back burner just in case we have time to talk about it. So without further ado, let me share my screen with the folks at home. Bear with me for a second. This allows people at home to stop seeing me, and they will now see what we're seeing up here. All right. So again, it's Bitcoin Filter number 51. Next week is a very special show. It'll be our 1-year anniversary. But what do we got going on here? This is a Bitcoin community. We're trying to build a Bitcoin economy in Ubud. How do we do that? Well, we have an online discussion on Facebook. If you guys haven't seen this already, join our Facebook group. It's at facebook.com/groups/Bitcoins in Bali. And the way this works is people just post relevant stories here, and we discuss it online. And then once a week on Tuesday night, rain or shine, we get together in person and talk about it together. So get involved in the Facebook group. We also have a conversation on Twitter. If you hashtag Bitcoins in Bali, you can begin a conversation there. And I try to tag things that are relevant to what we're doing here in Bali on Twitter. And so there's a conversation taking place there as well. I'll go ahead and I've got a tweet all teed up letting everybody know that we're broadcasting on YouTube with a link. So Bitcoin Filter begins right now for the folks on Twitter. There we go. Okay, local news. What is going on locally with Bitcoin? Well, you know, we do this every week from Hubud, which is a co-working space in downtown Ubud. It stands for the Hub in Ubud, and for the last year, they have generously allowed us to use this space and drum up excitement for Bitcoin. And seeing as how next week is our 1-year anniversary, they've decided to do Bitcoin month in the month of July. So next month, the month of July, is Bitcoin month here at Hubud, and we've got lots of stuff planned. First and foremost, you can get a 10% discount. If you guys are going to pay for a membership or a day pass or anything here at Hubud, you get a 10% discount if you pay with Bitcoin. So if you've been kind of thinking about maybe getting into Bitcoin, or like you've been interested in it but never actually used it, this is your chance. What else is going on? We've got, of course, the Bitcoin Filter. That happens every Tuesday, but we've got Bitcoin 101 workshops every week. basically what we were thinking is if you offer a 10% discount if you use Bitcoin, what if people don't know how to use Bitcoin? Kind of a problem. So we've got these Bitcoin workshops on the 1st of July. So that's tomorrow at 5 p.m. We're going to do the first Bitcoin 101 workshop at 5 p.m. I know you guys are more familiar with Bitcoin, but if you know of any beginners, we start from absolute scratch. And we show you how to get Bitcoin on your phone, on your laptop, and how to store it securely and use it. We can even help you get your Bitcoin wallet set up so that you can pay for your membership and get your discount. So that's going to happen every Wednesday. Let's see. Also, let's see if it's on the next tab, if I remember correctly. Oh yeah, Bitcoin 101. If you want to know more about Bitcoin 101, you can go to this link, bitcoinsinbali.org/Bitcoin101. We need a registration because there's only so much room per class. So go there, click on this register now, let us know that you're coming for Bitcoin 101. Last but not least, on Mondays in July, we are going to do the Money Movie Monday night. So we're going to set up the screen out in the courtyard, and every Monday I've chosen, well, a little bit more than 4 really good money movies to watch. And these are going to make you mad, they're going to make you think, they're going to make you want Bitcoin, yeah, I'm hoping that it's going to be a real conversation starter. A lot of these, they're not all specifically about Bitcoin, but they all address why Bitcoin came to be, right? So we'll have movie night, and then we'll discuss afterward. Those are on Monday nights in July, and yeah, check it out. So the other thing that we did for July is we filmed this Bitcoin machine tutorial. Check it out. We've got a Bitcoin machine out here. Anybody can get a Bitcoin wallet on their phone, and they can buy Bitcoins at the machine 24/7. Check it out, this little how-to. It's less than a minute.
This is the Hubud Bitcoin machine. It's super easy to use to buy Bitcoins. The Bitcoin machine just needs a Bitcoin address and some Indonesian rupiah to be converted. The Bitcoins arrive almost immediately. With Bitcoin, Hubud entrepreneurs can send money to anyone for anything around the world almost instantly, for virtually no cost, or spend it at dozens of places here locally in Bali, including a membership here at Hubud. To learn more about the great things happening at Hubud, please visit us online at hubud.org or come by in person in Ubud, right across from the monkey forest.
All right. So that's the Bitcoin machine. That's only one way, though. It's like a vending machine. You stick in rupiah and you get out Bitcoin on your phone. But what's very interesting, beginning tomorrow, we've got the Bitcoin desk. So at the front desk, you can go the other direction. Hubud has got a lot of digital nomads coming and going. And when they show up, if they've got Bitcoin, but they don't have any Indonesian rupiah, they can go to the front desk at Hubud. And you can only get out a small amount. It's limited to $1 million per person per day. But you can convert your Bitcoin into rupiah, so you can spend that locally. So we've now got a two-way street with regard to Bitcoin here at Hubud, which is really exciting. Really super excited about that. That begins tomorrow, Bitcoin desk. What else is going on in July? Well, we've been at this for about a year, trying to evangelize, trying to make Bitcoin take off. And it's a bit of a leap of faith, but I have decided that I'm going to try and totally live my life on Bitcoin here in Bali. I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't thought too much about it. I'm not sure what I won't be able to buy or where I'll be stranded, but I'm going to give it a shot. It's not really a publicity stunt. It's just really it's a way to focus on what's really needed in terms of people actually doing this. I mean, the goal is for someday people to show up and for it to be easy. I don't think it's easy yet, but hopefully it will be interesting. So I want you guys to, each day I'll basically record what's going on with me. I'll do a little blog post on Medium. Maybe not every day. I'll try to do it every day, but essentially when something interesting happens, I'm going to record it and put it up on Medium. So take a look at that. We'll put the link to that in the show notes. Essentially what I'm going to be doing, I don't know if you can see up Singapore's up here, right? They've got about 42 Bitcoin businesses, and little old Bali down here already has 37. So we're right on their heels. I'm going to try and visit many of these Bitcoin businesses in Bali. There's Ubud, about 16 in Ubud, and there's 17 down in Denpasar, where bitcoin.co.id has their offices. But there's all kinds of things I want to go look around and see what I can do with my Bitcoins around here. And so I'm going to, and hopefully I will even maybe meet people that want to get involved with Bitcoin as well. But in any case, you'll see me all over the island, especially in these places, checking out the Bitcoin businesses that are there in July. I'll also go, this is the Bit Islands directory. We've got lots and lots of businesses here. My scooter expires on the 13th of July, so I'm going to go check these guys out, see if I can't rent a scooter. I'm going to get my Bitcoin tattoo. That's going to go in a place where the sun doesn't shine. And maybe a hammock, some homestays. By the way, where's the W homestay? Homestay. Oh, there's several on here. As of Wednesday, I'm going to be staying at the W homestay, which is right on Gautama Street. Less than 20 bucks a night. You get a clean bed and breakfast, hot shower. And but I don't know if I'm going to stay there the whole month. I'm going to look for other places to stay. So if anybody in the room or anyone online would like to rent their place, rent a room, I would be willing to pay Bitcoin for that. So let me know. Maybe even if someone is never exposed to Bitcoin before, but they're interested, I'll teach them how to use Bitcoin and then I'll rent their room. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
The Viceroy.
Yeah, the Viceroy. I don't know if I can afford the Viceroy. I'm going to talk to those guys. I don't think I can generate enough publicity even to to make it worth their while. But all right. So how much am I going to spend? Have you guys seen this thing, Nomad List? Developed at least in part right here at the hub in Ubud by this Peter Levels, right? So this Nomad List says that you can live in Bali for $1,154. So I'm going to see if I can do that. They claim expats can live for $831, but I think my budget's been a little more than that. I don't know where this guy's eating. Like street food, street meat, maybe.
I know people that are living on half that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, we gotta
Live
talk.
Proper local.
Well, my plan is to convert this much money into Bitcoin at the start, and see how we do. And well, we'll just see how it goes. If I run out of money, then well, I'm also going to try and make money using Steven's Connectivize system, which he went over last week. If you remember, you can basically put an ad up, offer your services. I'm going to offer up my services, such as they are, for Bitcoin, ditch digging and whatnot. Manual labor is really all that I'm good at. But anyway, you guys can find my ad on Connectivize and take pity on me, especially if I run out of money. How will you know if I run out of money? Well, I'm also going to expose all of my finances during the month on the blockchain at this address. This is going to be my Bitcoin address for the month. Just before the show, I tested the Bitcoin ATM. I converted 200,000 rupees into Bitcoin at that address, and I'm going to continue to convert that $1,100 or so that I have set aside, and we'll see how we do. So let's see if I made any money yet. Oh yeah, see, it It was $14.85 when I bought earlier today. Now it's $14.99. I'm already ahead of the game. All right. Drinks on me. Oh, okay. So anyway, I will put all these links in the show notes for Bitcoin filter number 51, and I hope that you will stalk me and watch what's going on as the month progresses. All right. Okay, so let's talk about the price. We're in Indonesia, and according to Bitcoin.co.id, we're at 3,401,700 rupiah per Bitcoin. Look at this number here, though. Over 200 Bitcoins in the last 24 hours. So lots of stuff happening. I will probably convert some of my money using this exchange as well, because the Bitcoin machine is good, but it's a little bit more expensive than I can get on the Bitcoin exchange. So anyway, I'll write about all that stuff, and we'll take a look, see how much it makes sense at the end of the month on how I did it all. Okay, let's talk about dollars. That's the trick chair, Deborah. We saved it for you. And then okay, so $265.44. You can see in the last 24 hours, it's up 4.98%. Welcome to the roller coaster. You won't see many currencies going up and down by 4 or 5% in 24 hours. But that's what we've been watching. This is like the rodeo, where we've got a bull by the horns now, and it's going to be a wild ride. So hang on to your hats. But just before you get too nervous about everything, take a look at this. I came across this when I was doing some price research. Check it out.
This one time, Bitcoin went from around 6 cents all the way to 36 cents, and then it crashed down to 21 cents. And then another time, Bitcoin went from 85 cents all the way to $29, and then it crashed $3. And then another time, Bitcoin went all the way to $213, and then it crashed all the way to $70. And then another time, Bitcoin went all the way to $1,100, and then it crashed all the way to $239. So the moral of the story is, don't buy Bitcoin, because you know it's going to crash.
Okay. Anyway, so I thought that was pretty good. Incidentally, one of those spikes that he described when it went up to, I think it was $266 and then back down, was coincident with the European Union bailout of Cyprus in March of 2013. Okay, and there's a lot of parallels between that and what's been going on in Greece. And so, but we're at a different price point now. If the same thing were to happen now, it would happen an order of magnitude larger. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but anyway, we are watching with interest. So like I said, hang on to your hats. Here is the Bitcoin price over time, and you can see this is that last kind of spike and then crash. But the world back in March of 2013 looked a little bit similar, where you had a spike and then a crash. This is what happened in this is when Cyprus happened in March of 2013. So,
were you able to properly short it back then?
No, there were no services that offered shorting at that time.
I'm wondering if it's going to be different this time, because the exchanges and the markets are much more mature than they were.
It's quite possible. It's quite possible. You know, there was barely any infrastructure at this time. If you wanted to buy Bitcoins at this time, there was no Bitcoin machine, there was no Bitcoin desk. You had to wire your money to Mt. Gox in Japan. That's a little dicey. That's a little sketchy. But anyway, it was a totally different world. So yeah, you make a good point, Simon. I don't know if it's going to happen again. We shall see. The one thing that makes me think that we still have another one of these huge jumps in the price is because all Bitcoins on planet Earth are only worth $3 billion. That may sound like a lot, but I mean, that is absolutely nothing. I mean, that's like a rounding error at Goldman Sachs. I mean, it's really, that's not any money at all. I think by comparison, in the month of June, today, Greece owes, I think, 1.7 billion, the IMF. So that's half the entire Bitcoin market value just for Greece. And you know, the talking heads are always talking about how it doesn't matter about Greece because they're so tiny. You know, they have a smaller economy than Rhode Island, something like that. But anyway, as you can see, if there were any kind of mass adoption to Bitcoin, there's no way that even if you had a sophisticated futures market for Bitcoin, it wouldn't stem the tide. But don't listen to me. I'm not offering investment advice.
So I'm being very pessimistic.
You can be the voice of reason, Simon. I'm drunk on this price shift today. Okay. All right. I know you guys love to look at graphs, so let's look at another graph. What we have here is the USD Euro cross for the last week. And well, because of all this pandemonium in Greece, we have a really interesting chart pattern here. It kind of looks like that cliff that the lemmings all jump off of. But it's interesting to see a flat line like this. Does anybody know what's going on when you see a flat line like that on a currencies chart?
Panic.
Institutional panic. Well, it's not natural. This is not something you see. This is man-made. You know, if this was a stone block in the Egyptian pyramids, you'd know this was a man-made feature here because it's so obviously manipulated. And this is what this really represents: is market manipulation. The European Central Bank defending the price of the euro against the dollar. Right, you know, we've been flirting with dollar-euro parity, and the European Central Bank does not want that to happen. And so they use their resources to essentially buy up all of the euro bids that come in above this, right, or below this rather. So this is market manipulation. It happens all the time. It's quite blatant. I mean, it's interesting. I find it really interesting in this modern world we live in that you've still got huge institutions essentially manipulating the market, changing the price of money, manipulating the price of money, the thing that we work for all day, every day, and we use to represent our human energy on planet Earth. It's manipulated by these guys at central banks. And
isn't it intrinsic to all currencies? Well, I mean, I know this is the gold part versus the money as a social relation type of base. Views different on this, but I mean, what is the current bit? This doesn't take out of the flow of the story.
No, please.
I mean, what is the Bitcoin theory about how will Bitcoin function when it's no longer? We no longer think of it in terms of something which will always be convertible to a real currency, which is essentially like, you know, the gold standard used to be before floating exchange rates.
Right.
Because it's in the nature of money that it will fluctuate because it's linked to economic activity, which also fluctuates.
Right.
So there are reasons to want to control the money supply. And there's wondering, what does Bitcoin think about that stage and its future development? Like, what's current thinking on that?
Well, you know, those are good points, all. Thank you for clarifying that. And Bitcoin is fundamentally different because there is no fiscal policy, right? The fiscal policy is built into the algorithms of the currency, and there is no central bank, right? There's an inflation rate that grows based on a mathematical equation, and
but it can subdivide itself on much more than real currency. Is that correct?
Yes, it's divisible into 100 million pieces per Bitcoin, and so it remains to be seen if market forces push Bitcoin around in such a way that it's not useful as money or a store of value. It's actually, you know, I would say that it's like that today. It's not all that useful as currency now because of the fluctuations. There is no central bank keeping it kind of level. And that's why when I try and live on it in the month of July, it was, I mean, I really don't know what's going to happen. You know,
it's one of the, I mean, if you don't go into the gold bar type stuff, that money must maintain its value or this sort of thing, then one of the more prominent theories about where a currency derives its value from is the common transactional partner, which in most modern states is the state.
Mhm.
The state, you pay taxes to the state. Everybody lives on the state. Everybody has to pay taxes. Everybody knows a dollar will always be worth at least something because the state will always want something from you. So that would potentially be something that could apply to Bitcoin.
right. Well,
If there's always somebody in the world who's going to take your Bitcoins and throw you in jail if you don't give them Bitcoins, then Bitcoins will always be valuable.
yes, that's what we need. Some political entity to collect taxes in Bitcoin. Greece, somebody get me Cyprus on the phone. He can. He doesn't have to go to the drachma. He can switch over to the Bitcoin and turn on the tax machine.
Because it is a problem now. You're talking like you're looking for so much of Bitcoin's value does seem to derive from who are my transactional partners. Do we have enough people in common that I can, you know,
Yes.
trade my shoes for chickens sort of thing in the old currency model?
Yes. We are in that kind of pre-ubiquity phase of Bitcoin where I've got some Bitcoin, but there's in most places it's not useful.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to, whatever happens, it will happen organically with Bitcoin because Bitcoin has just been set loose. Nobody at the wheel. Yes, we shall see. All right. So before we jump into Greece, this is we're going back in time in Cyprus to March 2013, where essentially Cyprus had much the same problem as Greece. They borrowed a bunch of money. They made a bunch of bad loans, and the banks in Cyprus were in trouble, right? And there was lots of talk about Cyprus not being able to pay off their debts, leaving the Eurozone, and there was an iterative process where Cyprus, the leaders in Cyprus, and the interested parties in the European Union and the European Commission were trying to think creatively about how to save Cyprus banks, and what they came up with was a new term, the bail-in. Are you guys familiar with this term, bail-in? Where they essentially confiscated the deposits of the people who had money in Cypriot banks in order to, quote, recapitalize the banks. So for all those bad loans that weren't or basically non-functioning loans, they made the banks whole by taking depositors' funds. So imagine it's Friday, you have €1,000 in the bank, and then on Monday, whoopsie-daisy, you only have €600 in the bank. That happened. Now, like I said, it was an iterative process. So at first they said, we're going to take 5% from everybody. And there were pitchforks in the street and Molotov cocktails. And they said, oh, wait a second. What we're really going to do is take all the Russian oligarchs' money. So if you have more than €250,000, we're going to take 40% from those people. So that's what they ended up doing. And apparently there weren't enough people that fit that threshold to get a riot going. And that's what happened, or something close to that. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but essentially a bunch of people lost a big chunk of money. So anyway, it's useful to go back and look at Cyprus. And I know, Deborah, you asked the question, like, when did the spike in Bitcoin like what news event corresponded with the big spike in Bitcoin? Like I said, there was a huge interest in Bitcoin because you can't bail in a Bitcoin. So the price of Bitcoin went from $20 or $30 to over $200 and back down again during this time. But I don't know what the catalyst was. I didn't have enough time to kind of match it up. But I think that it was just ran up during that whole time when there was all that uncertainty. But it would be worth taking a detailed look, like day by day, to see what really sparked the rise in Bitcoin price. So past is future it seems. And let's go to Greece. It seems that even the ground is shaking in Greece. They had a 4.1 earthquake on June 29th. So Zeus is in Greece. Just maybe he's trying to use the ATM and he's mad because he can only get 60 euros out. In any case, there was a more than just a psychological earthquake. There was a physical earthquake in Greece the other day. Why? This is the payoff schedule. Remember, I told you all bitcoins on planet Earth are only worth 3 billion. Here's the 2016 7 billion, 2017 9 billion. These are all bills that the Greeks have to pay back. I said last week, read my lips, Greece will not pay off its debts. I mean, this just makes me shudder. Can you think of this was like your I don't know, your deadbeat brother-in-law or something, and he owed all this money? Would you want to loan this guy money? I don't think so. Here's another look at what Greece owes. In 2015, over $25 billion it owes to the International Monetary Fund, to the central bank. Some of these are their pensioners, I think. Which ones? Private investors. Anyway, these guys are in a world of hurt, and it's quite obvious. You know, they restructured all these debts back in the 2010 or 2012 when the IMF got involved. And they put together all of these, projections and all these austerity measures, and it simply didn't work. In fact, Greece had their elections in January of this year, and they elected a government that was anti-austerity. So it's no wonder that this government that has been elected in Greece is not going along with the troika on their plans. All right, Greece closing banks as expiring bailout spurs withdrawals. So there is capital flight taking place in Greece. People have an inkling that all their money is not in the bank. It's really funny because all of the talking head or all the heads of state are saying, don't worry, your deposits are safe. But in reality, the deposits are not there. They are not. Because if they were, you wouldn't have to impose capital controls. All right, we'll talk about those in a minute.
But the connections, from what I read, and I only dimly understand it, maybe somebody else can enlighten me, but the link between, we make a very easy connection between Greece's debts and the euro as a currency, but there's no necessary or unidimensional connection between them. It's theoretically possible to have the European Central Bank step up and say, we will defend, you will help the Greek Central Bank and Greek banks, even if the sovereign government of Greece defaults. You can keep the euro and keep the banking system, but still have a default government. Which is a big criticism, is that this is blatant extortion of the Greek government, because the Troika can't admit 5 years on that austerity hasn't worked. So the big lever is, well, if you're going to default, we're also going to kick you out of the euro. But it's a political choice, which I understand need not be made. That the ECB does have some scope in its charter to support Greek banks without interfering. And I mean, that makes sense because the central bank is a monetary authority and it shouldn't be dictating fiscal policy of governments. That's,
right.
If the Fed started doing that, people would be up in arms. There would have been up in arms when the Fed started doing that.
Yeah.
So just to say that the connection, I believe, is not 1-1.
That's true. There's an economic connection between Greece and the European Union. There's also a political connection. Obviously the Greek people elected a government, but they're intertwined with the rest of Europe financially. And it's true. In fact, this happened over the weekend where European central banking authorities engaged with the commercial banks in Greece to make sure that they had enough cash on hand for the ATMs, because essentially they want to stem the panic, right? They want to keep, basically make everybody feel like their money will be safe so that they don't indeed go to the ATMs and pull all their money out. But today was the day that Greece was supposed to pay their bill, and I believe that sort of support has dried up at this point. But they can default, they can go bankrupt, and they could even stay in the euro after that fact. Those debts could be written off or restructured. I mean, but
I mean, Detroit can go bankrupt, or Mississippi could go bankrupt without the dollar.
yes, great
Without
analogy.
taking them out of the dollar.
That's right. That's right.
Unless the Fed were to say, if Mississippi defaults, we're going to kick you out of the dollar, which is
Right.
no idea what the ECB is
Yes.
doing to Greece.
There is a bit of moral hazard there, because there are other states within the European Union that are in a similar situation, much larger economies, in Spain and Italy, Ireland, and yeah, whatever they do with Greece, there's going to be a few other trains coming down the track that have a similar dynamic. And so they could save Greece and then lose everything else if they have to save 4 or 5 other troubled economies in the euro. So, man, isn't this better than watching the Kardashians? This is like fascinating. I feel bad for the people. I find myself in this really weird state where I start rooting for the collapse to come, and real people will be hurt. And I've seen them interview like pensioners in Greece, and they just, they work their whole lives, and they're just living out their old days, and they just don't know what's going to happen. It's sad. Whatever happens, I hope it's just not too painful for everybody. This is obviously all over the mainstream news. CNN Money talking about this, invoking a quote Lehman moment. For those of you who don't know, Lehman Brothers was like a well over 100 years financial firm that folded in 2008. The day before, I think they had a AAA credit rating, and then the next day they were done. So really, a lot of people pontificating about what might happen if Greece were to default and or leave the euro. So take a look at that. Little wrinkle. We talked a little bit about this last week too. You've got Russia. You've got a larger geopolitical dynamic taking place between Putin and America, between Putin and the West. And really, Greece, you can consider them as part of the West, but they're persona non grata in Europe, and Cyprus is flirting with Russia, essentially. And the latest here is that they've proposed maybe Greece can be part of this new BRICS bank. We've talked about the BRICS bank in the past. It's a new development bank to rival the IMF, or to allow Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa to settle their balance of accounts without having to use the dollar. And Greece actually occupies a very strategic area, piece of land that is interested in. They want to build this pipeline through the Black Sea and through Turkey and into Greece. Greece could actually become one of their endpoints for Russian gas, right? And you could actually build part of an economy around delivering that fossil fuel, that Russian fossil fuel, to Greece and then the rest of Europe. And obviously that has big geopolitical ramifications, but it's interesting that Cyprus is entertaining those talks and meeting with Russia. Let's see, the new route will provide for European fuel needs and would allow Greece to become one of the main power distribution centers on the continent, and could help attract significant investment into the Greek economy, Putin said at a joint news conference. So that's got to be music to your ears if you're Greece, right? They need a lifeline. Yeah, as opposed to austerity, let's wash our hands of this European obligations and then start building a pipeline for Russia and put people back to work. You can see how it could be compelling politically. I don't know about this news source. I've never seen this webpage before, so check your facts on this. I didn't have time to do a detailed analysis, but I know it was front page news, I think, last week that these guys were meeting in person when some of the problems were bubbling up. Okay, what are capital controls? Is everybody familiar with capital controls and what they are and why they do it? Basically, when you've got a fractional reserve lending system, the money that is in the bank, the money that shows up in your bank account, like when you log into your bank account, it says you have 1,000 euros. You don't really have 1,000 euros. That money has been lent out on a fractional reserve basis, and essentially, if everybody were to go and claim the money that they have in the bank at the same time, some people, usually the people at the back of the line, would get lint instead of their actual money, like the lint at the bottom of the bankers' pockets. And so to keep that from happening, they implement capital controls. Capital controls are, well, in this case, a maximum of 60 euro can be withdrawn from an account in 1 day. Anybody try to live on 60 euros a day in Greece? I don't know how easy or hard that would be, but it doesn't sound like very much money to me. Overseas transfers of cash prohibited except for vital pre-approved commercial transactions. So on that news, it's rumored that 40% of Greek ATMs have already been emptied. So even though you can only get 60 euros out, maybe even the ATM is empty. So you might be still out of luck. The controls on funds transfers also extends to Western Union, which confirmed on June 29th that their Greek arm of the business would also be closed for the rest of the week. What's interesting is, Greece has euros, right? I mean, and euros are used all over Europe. So if you had a bunch of cash and you go to Western Union and turn your Greek euros, which are not really available, not movable, they're under capital controls, Western Union to your cousin in Paris, all of a sudden they've got French euros. My point is, when one country has capital controls, you've got two different euros. You've got a Greek euro and a euro, and that's why Western Union is saying we're going to go on vacation for a little while, bank holiday. So anyway, check that out. Fascinating. All right, so I know at this point you guys are feeling kind of glum. You're asking yourselves, what can I do about this? I want to do something positive. I want to help the situation. I don't want to just complain about it. I want to do something. Well, do you guys remember last week we talked about Eric Voorhees? He was the guy complaining about the bit license, and remember he had this censored jurisdiction website, basically complaining about regulations in New York City. He's a cool guy. He suggested that we do this Greece Bitcoin drop, right, using our friends at ChangeTip. About 6 or 8 months ago, we had the ChangeTip team here, right, in downtown Ubud. They took over the mansion with the pool out back, the Hubud villa, and released their latest version of their software and drank a bunch of beer with us. I had the CEO on the back of my scooter. We went to the Viceroy for the big party there. But anyway, great service. If you want to learn all about micropayments and Bitcoin tipping, ChangeTip is the service to use. So what we're going to do here, since we like to take action, is we are going to take his advice. He's saying, find somebody on Twitter that's really popular in Greece and use ChangeTip to give them some Bitcoin. Maybe you can get some Bitcoin going in Greece. All right. So what I've done is I've got $14 in my ChangeTip account. That's me. And I went and looked at all the top Twitter people in Greece, and at random I found this guy, Christos Kalamaris, and he's got a bunch of, I don't know what that says, but he's got a bunch of followers and he likes Charles Bukowski. Does anyone know who Charles Bukowski is? Okay, if you learned nothing else, you learned about this guy, Charles Bukowski. He's like a really weird, strange poet, like social critic, cool guy. I found this quote from him, which is very apropos for digital nomads. How in the hell could a person enjoy being awakened at 6:30 a.m. by an alarm clock, leap out of bed, dress, force feed, shit piss, brush teeth and hair, and fight traffic, get to a place where essentially you made lots of money for somebody else, and we're asked to be grateful for the opportunity to do so. So look into Charles Bukowski, but I chose him for that reason. And where is his? Oh,
Why'd you
no.
choose her?
Okay, she's next. Sorry, I went too far. I've got to, let me get my. I've got my tweet all teed up here. Hold on a sec.
You see the Mac Doctor, July 1st in Hubud.
Oh, my Mac is slow. I don't like that beach ball.
Does the Mac Doctor accept Bitcoin?
No, not to my knowledge.
Dick.
You hold him down and I'll make him. Okay, so I'm going to tweet this guy. I'll show you how this works. We are doing something about it. We're taking action. We're helping the Greeks directly. I couldn't send this guy money. I couldn't get to his bank account. I couldn't help this guy out in any other way except for Bitcoin and change tip. So what I'm saying here is banks frozen in Greece, try Bitcoin instead. Here's $6 worth via change tip with love from Bitcoins in Bali.
Here, Bitcoins in Bali.
That looks wrong.
Oh.
You need to
Bitcoins
change. You need to change
Bitcoins
love to LUV. Give
in-
you the extra.
in
Thanks.
Bali. Well, I got 2 to spare. With love from Bitcoins in Bali. Okay. So send that. So what change tip does is it monitors Twitter. You can also do this on Facebook and Reddit. You can give somebody some dough if they have a cool tweet or a nice Facebook post or something valuable on Reddit. You can send them a little bit of love. Now, this guy will get it. We'll see the tweet, and maybe he can collect the Bitcoin and maybe share it with his friends. It's only $6, so
Or maybe it's just super confused.
we shall see. I didn't want to be sexist, so I also found her. She's got a bunch of stuff also in Greek, but it's obvious she's kind of interested in this what's going on. She's got pictures of the protest. There's I think that was several days ago. But she's a lawyer, and she's obviously interested in what's going on there. So I'm going to send her some as well. Let me just cut and paste.
Fountain of blood in the shape of a girl.
Yeah, she's obviously very artistic. Charles Bukowski would love this one. Come on, Twitter. My Mac is running on fumes. All right, so she's going to get some as well. So anyway, taking action. If you want to learn more, you can take a look at this Greece Bitcoin drop. This guy, Barry Silbert, he's a big boy in the Bitcoin space. I think he's with Circle or Coinbase or one of the. He's a big investor. Anyway, he's matching. He's reaching out to the people directly through Twitter, and if people respond, he's sending them some Bitcoin through change tips. So
BitAngels.
BitAngels, okay. So anyway, pretty cool. Any questions on that? All right. If you've got Twitter, if you've got a change tip account, maybe jump in and help out. All right. So we're still going around the world. What about Puerto Rico? This is in the New York Times. This guy is saying Puerto Rico's governor is saying the debts are not payable. These guys owe $72 billion, and Puerto Rico is a really weird political entity. Are you guys familiar with Puerto Rico? You guys ever heard that? It's a small island in the Caribbean, and it is a U.S. protectorate. It's almost like a state, but these guys can't. They're not a part of the United States, and they can't vote. But they get all kinds of perks if they cooperate with the United States. They're in the Caribbean, and whatever our interests are there, they're kind of on our team. And I think we fly our jets around the island for them every once in a while. Who knows what? But anyway, they've got some sort of quasi-state-like relationship with the United States, but they're not a state, and they're going bankrupt. And unlike Greece and the European Union, these guys are sovereign. If they go bust, they just have their creditors, right? They just have their bondholders. Who are these bondholders? They're probably in your 401k somewhere. If you're in the States, that's your retirement fund. Usually sovereign debt is a pretty safe, conservative play. You buy bonds from a country that's got a bunch of taxpayers they can go to if they need to. Traditionally, it's been a pretty good bet, but all bets are off lately. And these guys are on their shoulders saying, sorry, Charlie, this 72 billion. Again, 72 billion. Bitcoin's only worth 3 billion. This little country you've never heard of owes 72 billion. It's just interesting to see this happening in various parts of the world where sovereign countries are essentially saying, we won't pay our debts. And what does that happen?
Is Puerto Rico is on the US dollar?
It is, but it's not guaranteed like a state is.
Right.
At least
if they are sovereign, what a sovereign would usually do, what recent bodies do is we denominate all the outstanding bonds. Well, you can't do it for all the you can just say.
But Blair, did you say they are on the US dollar in Puerto Rico? Okay. So they don't have the option to devalue their currency.
But then they're not sovereign either. I mean, that's the.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, there's some kind of weird.
I mean, it's usually one of the bigger perks of sovereignty is the ability to be able to do that.
Yes, the ability to fire up the printing presses.
Exactly.
They're kind of an occupied territory.
Yeah.
It's a play to get out of stuff.
Anyway, not everybody has a printing press like the U.S. do. All right, so check that out. All right, we've just got a few minutes left, and I wanted to touch on this topic. This was posted in the Bitcoins in Bali group, and it is apropos. Is everybody in the room familiar with the block size debate? Who has no idea what I'm talking about? Raise your hand. Block size debate. Okay, it's a little bit nerdy, but I'll try and give you the 30,000 foot view. It's a technical problem with Bitcoin that not everybody who uses Bitcoin agrees on, and I think we'll just define it that way. It's something called a block. It's currently 1 megabyte, and they want to make it bigger so that we can accommodate more transactions per second. But if they do make the change, then it makes mining more expensive. It centralizes some of the computing power and changes some of the democratic nature of Bitcoin. So there's a hot political debate within Bitcoin, but there is no political entity, right? Bitcoin is just an algorithm. It's just out there running in the world. Bitcoin runs on tens of thousands of computers all over the world, and it depends on everybody running the same software. If somebody wants to change the rules, like change the block size, for example, if everybody doesn't agree, then either the change is not made, or we have what's called a hard fork, where some people are using the old version of the software and some people are using the new version of the software. But when you're talking about money and you're talking about currency, there is a faith in the integrity of the currency that is fundamental to its utility as currency. So this is a big problem, especially now that Greece is making the price move all around, and there are undoubtedly going to be lots more people interested in Bitcoin. It's going to put the pressure on. Right now, we have a hard limit of about 7 transactions per second in the Bitcoin universe. Right now, we usually only hit 1 or 2 or 3 transactions per second, but it's not hard to imagine a world where we would need tens of thousands of transactions per second. That's what Visa MasterCard can accommodate, for example. So yes, like I said, not everybody agrees. And Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency that relies on a consensus mechanism to function. And we are approaching very quickly, certainly by the end of 2016, an inflection point where either the entire population will need to adopt the new way, or the entire population rejects the change and we have this 7 transaction per second limit, or we split it right down the middle and everybody loses faith in Bitcoin as a currency. So especially if you've got a little bit of Bitcoin if you've decided to invest, this is something to pay attention to. Even though it's nerdy, it's a little wonky, it's a little hard to understand, and there's not only is there technology, but there's also politics and personalities involved in this stuff. And I mean, it's fascinating to see how, I mean, people have to get along. They have to make decisions. They have to do something or not do something. I mean, not doing something is also making a decision. Something's going to happen, and it's going to be good, bad, or who knows.
What's your view, Gary?
I think that we're going to move to a bigger block size.
I think the arguments against it are very flimsy. I mean, the fact that you can't store, what is it, 30 gig or so on a computer, they're really talking about trying to run it on your phone or something, which no one does anyway. And, you know, all these arguments against increasing the block size, which are just basically about disk space, are really kind of...
Well, that is the crux of it. Essentially, it will become, well, what's interesting, it's a bunch of miners that are saying we're not going to switch. That's what this article is about. And miners operate on razor-thin margins. In fact, most miners have some sort of free source of electricity, and that's how they're able to make money.
Is this, I'm not quite familiar with the specifics, but is this for the proof of work stuff? They want to make it harder to make it computationally more expensive?
I mean, at the moment, the whole reason this cap exists, so every 10 minutes there's a block, right?
Sure.
And then back in like 2010 or something, they introduced a 1 meg cap because people were spamming the blockchain with loads of crap transactions that no one cared about. So what's happening at the moment is they're just suggesting take 1 meg, put it to 20, and then we'll deal with the long-term solutions, you know, down the line.
Sure.
So what that means is, if people were to fill up every block, then the blockchain would be gigantic, and everyone running a full node would have like many gigabytes of data, which is still like, I don't know, $100 for a server or something. Yeah,
It's
it's
still
nothing.
It's still diminishing exponentially, I believe.
Yes, over
cost per
time.
gigabyte.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other point is that I don't understand the miners, because more transactions means more transaction fees, which means more money, right? For them.
Yes.
So, I don't know.
Well, we've got to get from here to there. Well, I don't know a lot about the mining business, but I know that their margins are quite thin, and I don't know, maybe the increased disk space would make some miners' businesses not profitable. I don't know. But you asked me what I thought would happen. I think we're going to navigate this successfully, and it'll be a big win for
The
Bitcoin.
discussions are incredibly civilized.
I mean, what's really interesting about Bitcoin is it performs a function that government used to perform in money, right? But there's still people involved, and there's still a political aspect to what's happening. But everybody's on equal footing. Like that, nobody can really just kind of force their way. Even the core developers, even the people that were involved from the start, or even the people that have all the hashing power, like they have to figure it out, and they all have a lot at stake. And I think they will. I mean, they have to, so they will. But there's actually some really interesting proposals on the table where they're, I'm going to mash this up because I don't fully understand it, but they're going to kind of, in a shared mining arrangement, move part of it to 8 megabyte blocks, and then they've got a growth pattern for another 8 megabytes per block over time. And there's some sort of voting mechanism that they can put in place where it's kind of keeping track of 2 blockchains, and then if they want to move to the one that has the larger blocks, they can.
Yeah, I love this idea that the software, the network itself, monitors what people are kind of voting. So which client you're running, you know, you individually make the choice there, but then the network kind of takes a vote of who's running what, and then proceeds down whichever path the majority of people are doing.
Yeah,
so it's very democratic.
It is. It is,
Cool.
and it's almost like humanity's first like natural creation. I mean, it's like this thing that exists. I mean, no, like it's like Frankenstein. Like we created this thing, we can't really control it. They're just trying to like keep the train on the tracks. But yeah, it's really interesting. All right, guys, I'm gonna have to leave it at that. We are out of time. Like I said, question.
Just want to say, no, just a quick thing. I'm just here for a week, and I'm a project manager for a couple of startups that are using blockchain in innovative, creative ways. And if anyone wanted to have a chat about it, I'd be happy to.
That'd be great. What's your name?
It's Mark.
Mark. Okay, and you'll be here for a little while longer?
I'm just here for a few days. I actually wanted to play here recently, and we had a chat about that.
All right. Well, let's talk about it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool. Have a chat with everyone who's interested.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, that's it for tonight. Like I said, I'm really interested in facilitating the conversation around universal basic income. This is something that I used to be very much against, but hopefully we can rile people up around that. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. Like I said, we do this every Tuesday night. I hope everybody in the room will check us out on Facebook and also come join us again next Tuesday, 6 p.m. local in Ubud, Bali. Thanks, guys. Good night.